I don't know about you, but I have Sam Vincent today. So what have you done with your life lately? Really?
He had me. He had me.
I had him and I kept him somehow. Thank you for this is a rare weekend. You don't have a convention.
Yeah. It's been nice being at home.
Yeah, for 5 seconds.
No, it's been good. When I get home, I'm always happy to be here and just enjoying the simple things of life, you know.
Yes, indeed. Because you and Matt and Tony, all of you guys have been. I mean, my God, just doing so many conventions, like all the time. Because we are both with Celebworks, the illustrious, wonderful con agent, and the Ed and Eddy Funko Pops have been flying off the shelves and all that. But
it's been that was a very nice serendipitous thing to happen for us. Just get on the road this year and just have that come out too makes it nice. And just see Tony in general, because I mean you and I have been doing cons forever. But we're having it's a love fest. It's we didn't really see much of Tony for years and years and years, and we knew he was living his life, and then it's like we just got all back together, and we all aged a bit, but we're all still just like it's like brothers being reunited.
Oh yeah, you're all the same whack jobs.
It's been fun just getting together. We just had an awesome dinner together at the last place we were at. And it was just like we went into this restaurant that we really had no business being in, and it was like, and then we were like sitting around and ordering, like wine and this and that, and Tony's just being Tony, but at the end of the night, the waiter was like, "You guys are just awesome table. It was so much fun. You guys were fun." So we're like, okay. Glad we didn't get kicked out.
Yeah, not knowing the whole time that they don't realize you're a trio of actual cartoon characters. My God. So I tend to bust the generic crap out of the way. The how did you get into voice acting and blah 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 blah. But I know a little bit of your origin story because as I always bring this up every time, because it was just such a big thing for my development when I was thinking about getting into this. Was I listened to Voice Print with Trevor Devall and guests way back in the day. You were his very first guest, and I learned a lot, honestly, from that.
Oh, did you?
No, Joe, yeah, absolutely. And I do remember you talked about in your early days being a goof. Your whole family were kind of clown coded, and eventually got into doing on camera when the film and TV scene kind of started in Vancouver in the early days. You did 21 Jump Street and Wise Guy and all this kind of stuff. But if you could bring me back to a young Sam Vincent Coot about just where did the performance bug bite you? What is your tragic backstory with how you went down this horrible path of being a performer?
Oh, well, it really it's about me and my brother Gabe, who unfortunately passed away 6 years ago. It was just him and I just always just goofing around. It began that way, and obviously we were influenced by a lot of the stuff we were watching on TV. In the late 70s, we had the Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. We had all the Hanna-Barbera stuff that was on, the old Looney Tunes stuff that was on. It was, and also I said influence too was the Carol Burnett show was such a huge thing for us. We would do our own versions of the skits on Mr. Football and all, like we're putting like the grapefruit in the shirts and be like Miss Greetings, Miss doing the whole thing, and so we were always putting on these when my parents would like have people over, and we're like, it's time for so many kids did that, just it's time for us to put try and make the grown-ups laugh, and so it kind of started there, and then just getting into high school, both my brother and I were kind of drawn to the drama and the theater department, and got into doing some plays and things like that, and also loved the whole theater sports improv aspect of things, because it was always fun being able to get up there and try and be funny and think on your feet, and that was a lot of fun. And then Gabe and I, we worked on a one-act play because we went to school in East Vancouver, and there was this one thing about going to school in East Van is that we weren't terribly known for our theater program. Like, it was always like the West End. It's a bit of a stereotype, but the West End schools, they had the theater program and they were doing this and that. And then kind of I had great drama teachers in high school. So I started off with Judith Hogan, who was British, and she was all about, bit of butter, bit of butter, bit of butter, and enunciation and all that. And she was a great first drama teacher to have, but she was very expressive. And my first one act play was with her, and I got to be this, and I got to wear drag in this. It was just a great experience to do this first theater thing. And then we got a young upstart guy who was basically an East Van teacher. He was 23 years old. So you can imagine being a teacher at 20. That's super young, right? But he came in and he created this. He wanted to, make a mark in the theater program. And we did this one act play called Indian Wants the Bronx, which was originally written by Israel Horovitz. I don't know if you know the Beastie Boys, Adam Horovitz. It's his dad.
Yeah.
So he was a playwright from New York, and originally it was off-Broadway play done by Al Pacino. And anyway, it was like gritty. He wanted to do something gritty and all this stuff. So we put that on for the one act play in high school drama festival, and we won it. And it was like the first time that, this East Van school got some recognition. It was kind of cool for us to see, and then the next year I graduated, but we came back and we did another play called A Peasant of El Salvador, and that one. So it was like 2 years in a row, like this school from East Van was, kind of bringing this new thing to theater. And it was kind of cool because it kind of put that school on the map for theater, which was awesome.
And wasn't that also where, because I know that one of your first gigs was 21 Jump Street. Yes. Didn't they film it at your guys' school?
Oh, yeah. They were filming all different schools, high schools in the lower mainland of Vancouver. That's, okay, my first experience ever with on-camera acting was I'd sign up because they're going to be filming this new show called 21 Jump Street at the school. Do you want to sign up to be an extra? I said, no, why not? You're making whatever your $5 an hour or whatever it was back in the day, And so I was sitting there, in the cafeteria, that was kind of like the extras holding, just having my little boxed lunch. They gave him a sandwich and an apple. And in walks this dude who's just like, he's got that air about him, and he's just like, go, who's that guy? And he walks in and he kind of walks, it'd be too cool for school. He walks right over one of the cafeteria tables and walks down it and keeps walking on, and you're like, who's that guy, right? And so that guy's Johnny Depp. He's the star of the show, and blah, blah, and you're like, oh, so that was like...
that kid's going to be a pirate someday.
Yeah, that kid's going to be a pirate someday, a drunk pirate. So that was my first kind of thing into on camera. And then there was, I don't know if you heard of this woman, but Carol Tarlington was an agent and a theater creator who basically had Vancouver Youth Theater. And basically she had the theater, and then she created an agency called Tarlington Talent, which really focused mainly on young people, because obviously you had this, use the word stable of actors in the theater thing, and kind of throwing them on, getting them out there, because the industry was starting to build at that point. There was a lot of stuff starting to happen, TV series and movies. So I initially got an interview with Carol through a friend of mine, Miguelito Andaluz, who's now based in LA, but we went to high school together. And she, it's those days back in the day where it was more of an interview, because I was very surprised, because I came in there and she said, Michael says that you're a good actor. And I'm like, yeah, I guess.
I can run a horse, yeah.
I don't know what to say. This is my first time ever going to talk to an agent. I didn't know, I was like, he said, I can get, so she's like, he says you're a good actor. I'm like, oh, I guess so. And then she goes, all right, you're in. I'm like, right.
Wow.
There was no arduous auditioning process. Maybe she liked my look or whatever, and and we'll give you a shot, kid. I'm like, yay. So from that point on, I had an agent, and my first professional audition was for Wise Guy. Some people may remember it. Ken Wall was the lead guy in it. And my audition was like 3 lines. I was for Pizza Guy. Yeah. And, I had to speak a little Italian, like I all it was non lo so. It meant, I don't know. And then, I was like, okay, I gotta get my, non lo so. And the guy comes in there, and I remember my first audition coming in there. All right, kid. All right, you go over here, and he's grabbing you, okay? And you're going to tell him, like, he's going to ask you, where is he? And you're going to, non lo so, he went back to Palermo, and all this stuff. And, whatever. It all happened. It ended before it happened. And I was like, went in there and told just a flash of, I don't know what I did.
And I was hooked after that.
Yeah. And he says, you got it, kid. You got the Pizza Guy. And you're like, whoa. So that was my first professional gig at 15. And then,
wow.
Being on set and, meeting Ken Wall and, and just the whole thing of getting roughed up by him. He tore my shirt and stuff. Like, you're very strong and large. Yeah.
Please, I'm going to be playing all the nerds in every cartoon in a couple of years. Be gentle. Oh, my gosh.
Be gentle. So, anyway, that was my first thing. And just little by little, there was more Jump Street things and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually I got my first voice gig.
Yes.
Our voice audition. Mm-hmm. And this was through, I don't know if you know the name Doug Parker.
Yes, absolutely. Of course.
Actually, I should predate that just to say that my first experience with the voice world was I took a weekend workshop. And I don't even know who turned me on to it. It might have been my agent or somebody. And I think this was before I even auditioned, but because at that point, I think there was people, I was kind of like, there were already people starting to do voice work at that point. I like the people that are a little bit older than me, the Scotties, and Matty Hill was even in there before me, and Adrian Corlett. And so for me, it was an introduction to voice, and it was a weekend, and Doug Parker had created it because I think that they were really wanting to start developing the talent in Vancouver, letting people know what the heck this whole thing is about. And Sue Blue was the kind of the lead person telling us about voice acting and voice directing and all that. So I remember that very specifically, being there with that workshop with Sue Blue, and that was my first introduction to Sue. And I went on to have her direct me in a couple of different series after that. But that was amazing. That was a cool little intro. Just I was just like, voice, I don't know. I'm a kid from school. And
well, you were already a whack job anyway. I feel like
I was a whack job. I had that going for me.
Absolutely.
I had all the inherent qualities that you need to do that.
To be a cartoon nut job.
Yeah.
Well, going back a second, because for our listeners that maybe might not know some of these hyper specifics, but they should certainly. Carol Tarlington, going back to her for a second, the reason that I know who she is, not only because of all the interviews you guys have done with Trevor and all that, but because she started the careers of many amazingly talented Vancouver folks. Brad, I think was her. I think Brad Swale was her. Kelly Sheridan.
So many
my
people.
God. Yeah.
So many. I mean, the list just goes on, and people with voice, but also people who went on to have great on-camera careers too. Like her fingerprints are on the burgeoning talent that came up starting in the 80s. I mean, huge influence. Huge influence. So kudos to everything that she did. And I remember I hadn't seen her for years, and I ran into her at the Trout Lake in Vancouver, Trout Lake Farmers Market. This was maybe 5 or 6, 7 years, but she was there shopping, and I was like, hey, how are you? And had a little bit of a reunion, and she was happy to see that I was still, performing and doing my thing. I think maybe for her, the voice world was a little bit of a mystery in the sense of like a lot of people went on to do voice because she really specialized with the on-camera talent, but so many of her students and kids went on to have great voice careers too.
Well, especially because I was talking to Carl Willems about this when I had him on like a year or so ago about how Vancouver, especially. I remember with the shows that I was watching growing up had so many really talented kid actors, like specifically in everything, and often I would forget. Oh, right, like. You and Kelly and Brad and a lot of these guys, you guys were teenagers. You were kids when you started, when you were doing.
Oh, yeah, really,
stuff.
yeah.
My God. Sue Blue, a lot of people, I'm sure, because RC from Transformers, but she was a very accomplished director and directed a lot of the really early shows in Vancouver. And then Doug Parker probably more people know him. He was the voice of Terrasar from Beast Wars as an actor, but he was also one of the most instrumental directors in Vancouver as well. Directed a lot of the early shows as well.
I would say that Doug is one of those people that was really. I look up to him really helping me out with. Because he was there doing it, working with BLT and other things, but the thing is, he was very supportive of me in my early career. Just to always, believed in my abilities and talents, and he was there for my Baby Looney Tunes auditions.
Oh, okay.
And he was my first ever audition for a voice role. And so I'm trying to remember how it went, but I literally think that I did not even perform that audition in a booth. I think I sat there or stood there with my script in front of him and read the part. I don't remember going into a booth for my first ever voice audition. I mean, I might be remembering that incorrectly, but in my brain, the way I remember it is I went in front of him and stood and read, but I didn't have a microphone. So
yeah, I mean, it was. I'm from New York originally, and I've heard so many stories from the Four Kids, old school guys, about how there were some auditions at people's houses, just in a closet or something, or not even, But now help fill me in, because I'm forgetting. If I'm not mistaken, your first cartoon was Bucky O'Hare. And your first anime was what they called it at the time Dragon Warrior, but the Dragon Quest anime from the 80s. I don't know which one was your first actual
It was
series.
actually Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
And I was always curious about, and then I did a little digging and realized that apparently Dragon Quest had already been taken by some kind of role-playing game or something. They couldn't get the name Dragon Quest in the States because that IP name was taken.
Yeah.
So they had to move to Dragon Warrior. And that was my first experience doing any kind of professional voice work. And it was dubbing. So that was a whole new, and you talk to some people who will say, oh yeah, I had a natural knack for dubbing. And I would say that perhaps that was it came to me a little bit easier than for some people. I don't know if it was the dubbing gods were with me, but you do your thing and it would just they all matched up and you're like, woo, all right, that went well,
Yeah.
So, sometimes you just have a natural inclination to get the lip flaps but that was my first experience with it. And it was fun. And I look back on it and I kind of cringe a little bit.
You know what? I'll tell you, I looked up, because I remember you talked about that show, and I looked up a couple episodes a while back. And first of all, it was so weird hearing the early guys like Jim Burns and Gary Chalk and some of those guys that did not go on to do much of any anime really after that. Yeah. Because I think they were like, this isn't worth it. But I remember specifically hearing you, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that really is him as a baby. That's so crazy to think about that. But no, honestly, for that being your first gig, you did really well on that. Moku was a fun character. I liked him a lot. It is actually kind of funny, the irony that unless maybe I'm wrong about this and maybe you're mixed in there somewhere, but because Dragon Quest, the character designs were all done by the late great Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball Z. And did you ever do any Dragon Ball thing at any point?
I don't think I ever even auditioned for Dragon Ball.
That's so bizarre.
Which is a little bizarre to me. I don't know how I missed out on that, because everybody around me was pretty much in there. But and it would be one thing to say, I auditioned for it, I didn't get it, but I didn't even have a sniff, which is interesting.
And you didn't do the Dragon Ball Kai when they brought it back 10, 15 years ago. They did the second kind of.
Nope, they never even thought of me and I never. Yeah, it was one of those things where. Yeah, I don't know. I just missed the ball on that, the Dragon Ball on that, I guess.
Yeah. So Bucky was your first prelay.
Bucky was my first prelay.
Yeah. Bucky O'Hare, very obscure but very beloved series from what I've seen. Yeah.
That was I think that was my only time working with Wally Burr as a director. And I had heard previously, other people had worked with Wally Burr and I don't know. I mean, everybody's got the thing, So people would say, "Oh, get ready to get Bird." I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but here we go. But honestly, I was still just a young guy trying to, learn this whole thing, and those like you can see if you look at AFC Blink and you go back and see that show, that's kind of like, that was my wheelhouse kind of character that I always went for. You know, I was either going to go for the robot or the elf or this. My strategy was always, let's not waste time on things that you don't stand a chance of getting. Let's focus in on the things that are in your wheelhouse and just do your best on that. And so that was kind of like, but it was great to, you know, work with all those guys in the beginning on that one, you know, and the late great Dale Wilson was in there. With Berker Baboon, you know, and Jay Brazow was in there playing Toad Marshall, and Jay is like an accomplished on-screen actor, and he would come in and do great voices as well. And Scotty was in there, Deadeye, and Jason Mikas was in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that was a fun show. 13 episodes. It would have been fun to have seen that thing get more, but it was great to get my feet wet. And I've actually come across some VHS. I just throw it in because it throws me back to those days. And
I'm shocked it had a home release at all. I feel like that was one of those, like, it aired once and it's only archived by like old crappy like tape recordings. But
yeah, well, no, I came across. I was in Vancouver at a toy and comic show, and I came across a girl was selling like 4 or 5 of these tapes, and I just nabbed them up. I said, I'm taking those home with me. I got my little old school friggin', you know, TV with the insert VHS player, and I like to throw stuff in there whenever I find like some of the older stuff that you can't really get on DVD.
Nice. Well, I know that kind of kicked things off for you, and then, you know, things were going pretty well. And then what year, Ed, and Eddy, that must have been what, like 96, 97, maybe something like that?
Yeah, 98, because we're celebrating our 25th anniversary of it being airing. So I think like maybe our first audition for it is around 98 or 99.
Yeah. Now that's going way back, obviously, but I mean, that was I imagine that was probably the show. Even though I know it didn't really air much in Canada, from what I've heard. It aired everywhere else, like everywhere all the time, except for Canada for some reason. But I know that was a show that really propelled you and like really got you out there more than maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, for me, it's not because Ed and Eddy was kind of an unknown thing. We were just like, okay, we're going to be part of this show, and we could see that there was a lot of interesting aspects to the show. But we really didn't see the impact of it until it got on the air for 2 or 3 seasons. Got the feedback from a lot of fans around the world because, like you say, Teletoon in Canada aired it for 13 episodes and then they just dropped it. I don't know the reason behind that.
So weird.
So literally, we don't. You know, that's the thing is barely anybody. Well, now with the internet, I guess you could, but kids didn't grow up with it up here. So it's kind of crickets when you go, like, you know, we just get so much love when we go to the States, but, you know, up here it's kind of like, huh, what show? Yeah. So unless you're a hardcore like cartoon person aficionado and you love cartoons and you love good quality animation, then you would know about it, right?
Well, I even remember actually when I didn't even think to mention this. The first time we met, because we saw each other after like 15 years at NostalgiaCon Anaheim a couple months ago. Yeah. I met you for the first time at one of the very first conventions I ever guested at when I was like nobody at Anime Evolution in Burnaby.
At SFU University.
Yes, 2010. Yeah, and I went up and you were very nice. We were having like one of the big like guest dinners. I came over, sat with you, were talking about stuff. You were very personable, and the Ed's movie had just come out. And I remember because it was, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I remember it was like recorded and like kind of in the can for a while. And then eventually it's out. Now we're putting it out like way later. And I had just watched it with some buddies of mine and we loved it. And Ed's was such a big show for me and like all the kids of my generation. We loved that show. And that was so long ago and so many bajillion episodes, but I don't know if you have any fun, weird stories, weird memories that stick out from doing the show, from the auditions, from, you know, knowing Matt and Tony for so long, anything like that?
Well, I mean, the show was intense to do in the fact that it was, you know, it was kind of like coming from the super mega brain of Danny Antonucci and trickling down to everybody. Now it started with the super mega brain of Danny Antonucci, and you know, you had the branch of the storyboard artists, you know, working away trying to make this brilliant stuff, and then the voice world, you know, us trying to make sure that we were embodying and bringing out the characters, because Danny had a very specific idea, a strong idea of, he knew what the character was and what the character was and was. And he was going to let you know if you were stepping off the path.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
So sometimes, some days were easier than others, and then other days it was really hard to, get that right. But, it was one of those shows where it's the only show that I've ever worked on where we sat down and read the storyboards every recording. Like, there was an 11-minute segment. So I guess it was a 3-panel sheet.
Yeah.
But the storyboards were that thick for an 11-minute show. And so we just plonked them down, and that's the thing too. I think we only tackled an 11-minute show per session. We didn't, like you could do these A/B things on most other shows and get it done within the required session. But we did an 11-minute show per session because it was so kind of exacting, because we'd sit there, we'd go through the storyboards because Danny wanted to see what everything visually looked like, because you obviously, like, the physical comedy in the show is just like through the roof in terms of just the visual stuff. So wanted to know exactly what was going on when you said these things. So that was one aspect of the show that was, the only time that ever happened in my career. And then just, this is more about the process. We ended up Ed's having to work separately. All right. That's it. No more big party. Ed's, and then it's the other cast. But for whatever reason, they just time-wise, recording-wise, they decided, to get the date done more efficiently. They put the cast. This, I don't call them supporting cast, but that's
the rest of the cul-de-sac.
The rest of the cul-de-sac.
Sure. Yeah.
Put them, and they recorded, and then the Eds would, which is interesting. They would record, and then we would be the afternoon session, and the Eds would come in, and we kind of gauge the room. How did it all go this morning? They're like, hey. And then we'd go in the studio. So that was an interesting part. And then just all the AKA Cartoon Inc., which was the name of the company, all the Christmas parties were always fun.
Oh, they would invite the actors. That's good.
Oh yeah, no, it was a chance for us to kind of mingle and hopefully try and commiserate together, and because they the storyboard artists on those shows, there's some of them really so talented. They're just the way that they're doing their job, and it was just a chance for us to get together and have a few drinks and kind of get together, which was nice. And there was always some very interesting, because Danny has a very interesting sense of humor, and there was I think I've told this story before, but I think one of the most interesting kind of gift basket type things, or it wasn't really a gift basket, but there was basically AKA Cartoon Inc. They had disposable cameras. I know I'm remembering this correctly. Paddles to spank your ass, and then take a photo of your butt and throw it around. I swear to God.
Leave the imprint up. Wow.
Yes. Right? Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I didn't participate. Being double D. I was like, I'm not quite comfortable with that. I don't think I will. Take a picture of my bum after being smacked. But and just they give away handcuffs and just fun stuff. I mean,
so much deviancy over there. I do remember. Actually, funnily, that same time when I went to Anime Evolution, I was still in school. I was going to an animation school in New York City, and we saw, I don't know how somebody got them, but we saw some of the boards from Ed and Eddy, and being like, oh my God, look at that. I'm studying that, obviously, because that's the gig, is being a storyboard artist. Like, if you want to be an animation creator. And I remember, maybe, I don't want to misquote, because I can't remember if it was maybe Peter or somebody on the show told me that, like, sometimes it actually felt almost more like doing an ADR show because everything was so hyper specific. No, maybe it was Terry, where like it was not ha 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 ha. If it was ha ha ha, it's 3 ha's. Period. Yeah. Not debatable at all.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
The parameters were very strict, but at the same time, it was, I mean, there's some shows where it's about, hey, we're just riffing and we're going to add some things of that. And this show is one of these shows that it's been created from start to finish with a vision and very specific writing and this and that. And you're just going to hit it. But
yeah,
you can't debate the quality of the show.
No, it works. Right? Yeah.
So, there's different methods, and this was the method, I would say it was the Danny method.
Yeah. And and it still holds up even now, too. I still go back and watch that show.
It's very good.
And I've stolen so much from all three. I was even just thinking about this. Obviously, the way you do him is very much how he was consistently. I've ripped off what I call like the early season 1 Double D, where he was a little more, a little scratchier.
Yes.
I've absolutely done that so many times on probably types of characters that you put. So.
Yeah, well, he has definitely evolved. And that's the thing is you watch all these characters because one of the things of the description of him when I initially got that fact sheet that came through, the thin paper. So, but it says he mumbles, or he was mumbly. And I was like, mumbly, okay. Well, and you're just trying to go figure out what. So that's why it was a little bit more in there, and he was a little more, and as the show progressed, he came out of his shell kind of, and they started writing him much more loquaciously, and he would have these, he would go into these rants of this and that, the injustice of that, or whatever it was, and he just kind of came out of his shell and became more like out there, and how dare you, I cannot believe how inconsiderate you have been, and blah 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 blah, But he really just started for me being like, oh, awkward and kind of mumbly, not sure what's going on, and and kind of evolved from there.
Yeah. It's always fun when that's the sign of a great show when it goes on for that many seasons, and you hear. I mean, Simpsons is always an example of how different they all sound by season 500 or whatever. And it's funny because it like that you mentioned with Blinky from Bucky O'Hare that he was kind of the proto that sort of voice and everything, that kind of character you're doing. And it's funny because I even remember. I think probably by now, maybe people at conventions have seen, I had the privilege of getting to do a couple prints for you guys of your Mega Man NT Warrior characters, which I was very
they're out there now.
Yes, and I remember, because I'm a nerd, like episode 1 or 2, Dex comes on, I'm like, oh, Eddy. And Number Man comes on, hey, Double D, because of course that's where my brain goes to. So,
yeah.
But that era, then right after that, 2000s, it was everything. You were doing everything. Literally the early 2000s, it was Mega Man, Gundam, I think Tom and Jerry, probably around that time.
Yeah, I went on a tear. The thing is, it was, I developed some great relationships with people too, which helped. And I thought it speaks to some I would say that, Nerdcore as a company really had people that they consistently would come back to, and I was one of those people that had the good fortune to be on shows like Stormhawks and Slugterra, and I'm sure at some point they were wishing that there was a deeper pool, so they were starting to get to that point where they're like, okay, we love these guys, we love them. And I'm loving it because I'm, keep getting cast in more shows, but, that became the thing is we were trying to broaden the talent pool and to try and infuse new people in. And it's just the way it goes. You have the old guard, the new guard, whatever, but that for a period of time there was really, got a lot of love. And also with another company called Marathon, they did Martin Mystery, and that was a great fun show to do. And they were so good to me in terms of bringing me back for other shows, future shows that they did, and things like Wreck-It Rabbit and other shows like that. So it was nice to develop those relationships with people, and they would bring me back consistently. But for me, the watershed moment, honestly, Ed and Eddy, it was Baby Looney Tunes for me.
I have to imagine, just to cut in on that for a second, because I watched that show and Crypto when I'd be home from school, and they would be on the preschool hours. And first of all, I was like, I'm really glad that these are two preschool shows that kids now at the time were growing up with, because they were smart. They were actually very well written. And I have to imagine, my God, getting the call for, hey, you're going to be not one, not two, three of the single most iconic cartoon characters in history in the same show. I mean, I would shit.
I mean, everybody, and that was the thing, is that I just was doing whatever I could to, like, try and honor these characters and go in there. And so when I got the call, I love talking about old technology, because I go, because it's been so long. I think I was at the gym, and I looked at my pager, and it said, listen, you have to call the phone to hear the message on your pager, and it was my agent. This is Ralph. Give me a call, Sam. Got great news. And like, when you call the agency, and on a landline, and they go, so you got baby Bugs? I'm like, yes. Baby Daffy? I'm like, yes. And baby Tweety? I'm like, yes. And it was a huge thing, and even my on-camera agent was so proud. Like, they took me out to dinner because they were like, it was like, this is something that we're celebrating. So for me, that was kind of like a moment in my career where I felt like I'd finally arrived as kind of like, and knew that this was just before I have to go and do these shows now. So I'm going to have to learn, how to really be a professional voice actor and go in there and deliver on these iconic characters. And I love the show. Had a great run doing that show, and learned so much in the booth about how to do the characters, and working with people alongside me. Like, Ian Corlett was there, was as Baby Taz, and Terry Klassen there was Sylvester, and Zani was in there, Petunia Pig, and Britt McKillop was in there as Lola.
Right.
So I was working with great people. But so for me, that was really a moment in my career. And then after that, Crypto came, and it was another Warner Brothers show, and then I was like, either somebody at Warner Brothers really loves me, or I'm just like, I don't know, because then it was Gary the Mouse, and I was just like went on this little Warner Brothers run, and it was anyway, it was just great. It was Can
you please, because especially that all three of them, you did a fantastic job, but your Daffy especially blows. Can we get a little bit of your Daffy?
Listen, all right, Granny. This is it. This is the last time there, Bugs. You stay away from my birthday cake. It's my birthday. Mine.
So good. I swear to God.
That was the most fun to do, and I love the fact that it was the baby versions of them as well, because I felt like I could just cut that cloth off and say, these are the baby dudes,
Yeah.
And that for me, it's its own distinct thing. But yeah, Daffy was a lot of fun. To do.
I mean, he's the best. Let's be honest. Yeah. He's the best Looney Tune.
Everybody loves Daffy, and he was just such a great character to study, and there were some great moments in that show where you could go, okay, they're because you're watching all the old Looney Tunes, and you see that they're trying to pepper in these moments of that were like very Daffy from the past, and try and put that in there. And I was like, oh, this is my chance to try and do this, So it was kind of like you're just actually a funny story about doing Baby Looney Tunes. I remember, before I would go to my session, I would sit in my car with myself, my coffee, for about a half an hour, and just go through the script and practice a bit. And I remember I'm in there. I must have the window cracked down, but I was in there going, "That's it, Bugs. This is the last straw." Blah 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 blah. And this guy walks by, and and then he stops, and he turns around, and he goes, "Is that Daffy Duck?" I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Wow. Give me my coffee, please.
He kind of just walks off, and I'm like, he had a big chuckle about it, but it was kind of fun.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Crypto was fun too. You and Drummond, the two of you guys being hilarious on that.
And then
show.
Scotty in there as Bat Hound. That was fun.
And also Ignatius as well, which I really liked him.
Yeah, and also like Mechanic. I want a special shout out to Mark Oliver as Mechanic Cat.
Yeah.
Because that was the first time I ever met Mark Oliver, and I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of speaking to Mark.
I have not. I love his work though. And he's a funny, interesting guy. My God.
He's such an interesting dude. He has the best stories, the best parties. He's just such an eclectic, he's such an interesting guy.
Yeah.
But the first time I ever met him was on Crypto, and we were kind of in the studio and waiting to go in, and this guy comes in, and he's like, and he's got this weird accent voice because he grew up in England a bit, and just like, and he had like pink bike shorts on, and he's when he cut off shirt, and he's just, I'm just looking at this dude going, who the heck is this guy? He reminded me of a more flamboyant version of Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner.
Oh my God! Yes,
he had the hair and everything, and I was just like, that's who he reminded me of. And so anyway, but then he went in the studio, and him doing his work, and then I didn't, making the connection that he was Ra the Crusade.
Yes, I was about to say.
Going,
Yeah.
I loved his performance of that character.
Oh yeah,
just so good. And because I didn't make the connection, because I would go in and hear, you'd hear the other people's, if they had previously done their stuff, it would be there, and I'd be like, who is this guy, man?
And he was pretty new. I mean, he started, like 2000, 2001, so that was like on for him anyway. And then I didn't even realize Ninjago as well. He's your dad, yeah?
Yeah, and and that's the other thing is he's my dad. He, like, some of his stuff that we did in the Crystallized Seed of Ninjago just cracked the heck up because he's funny too. But like he played the super dry version of Garmadon who was like trying to take care of his plant, Christopher or whatever. Yeah, it was Christopher. This is my plant. This is how I'm learning to connect with humanity. I was like, he had some of the funniest stuff I'd ever seen him do on that one episode. Anyway, he's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Gundam Seed. I got to talk about that show because that was another big instrumental one. Because all those Gundams from back then when Ocean was, sorry we took Gundam from you in LA after a little while, but all of those classic ones that I watched, and Atherin lasted so long between Seed and Destiny and how many video games and
Well, they didn't really. Yeah, I guess they couldn't really get rid of their. I mean, they could if they wanted to, because no one's safe on that show, right? But
no.
The kind of core Kira and Atherin and they've kind of moved. They've stayed with the show through Freedom, and that was, I think, that back when you went to the con there and Anime Evolution. That was a main thing because that was concurrent to what was going on at the time. So there was a lot of people resonating with Atherin at that time in anime circles, and that was cool. So that was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, and long day James Corrigal, who I would love to meet sometime, but I know he was one of the usual guys that did, I think, most of the Gundam shows.
Yeah, he did. He was, James was a much beloved, love Carl too. But, like when James, and the thing was, James stayed at Ocean for a long time, directing there, but he wanted to finally break off and see if he could get his first prelay director series. His first prelay director series was Stormhawks.
Really?
And,
gosh.
Yeah, that was his first foray into prelay. And he was so excited to get his first kick at the cannon and get into that. So, and that kind of started him off. And now he's currently our voice director on Ninjago Dragon's Rising.
That's right.
He did. Yeah, he's had a great voice directing career. And but James was also, I believe, he directed Nana as well at Ocean.
Right. Yes, he did. I need to watch that show. I really need to check that show out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people now who are younger anime fans are getting drawn into it, like maybe it's like an older sister or someone else, like, you got to see Nana, and it's got its own merits. It's a pretty interesting show as well.
There's so many directions I want to go with this because you reminded me of so many different things, but Stormhawks, to talk about with James for a second. That was a great show and should have gone on for way longer, frankly, because I think that was the first big show that Nerdcore did that really hit it off in the States, particularly, because I know Dragon Booster before that didn't do all that great over here.
That's right, Dragon Booster. There was Dragon Booster, when Stormhawks happened, I was very excited to be on it, just because it was visually, it just was such a cool show.
Yeah,
it had Star Wars flavor, which grew up on that. So that was the thing. I mean, I got to play the baddie and the good guy, so I got to have sky battles against myself, which is always fun. And visually it just looked really good. And I love the potential. Scott Stork was such a cool character. This kind of emo, paranoid, like,
got his hair a little bit.
Was such a cool character too. There was, And yeah, it's too bad that didn't keep going, but yeah, it was a good show.
Can I ask? Actually, this is something I love to ask you guys because you get to work together more often. But he's done a few cons and a couple interviews here and there. But Colin Murdoch is not nearly on the scene as much as you guys are. But I love Colin. Every time I would hear him in a show, and I didn't even realize he was Junko. Snipe, I was like, that's Colin.
Yeah, no,
not at first. Yeah,
yeah. Colin is very funny, very talented. Loved all the voices that he did. Mm-hmm. The last thing I worked with him on was Superbook, where he was the voice of the book. Mm. But the first, and this is actually one of my most fondest recording memories. And I don't know if it was the time of year or it was just like you have these like moments crystallized in your brain where they're just special recording memories. And I did this movie called Casper's Haunted Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And I played
Spooky. It's always Spooky the ghost.
But Colin Murdoch was in there playing one of the big bad ghosts.
Yeah.
And we had Tabitha St. Germain in there, and we had Ian Corlett in there playing ghosts. And I remember we recorded, and Scotty was in there, one of the ghosts, and Chris Zimmerman was directing. I think it was my first time working with Chris Zimmerman as
Legend. Yes.
Course, so she was directing. And I still have the DVD because there's some, if you ever find, and there's some behind the scenes interviews record.
Yeah.
And I'm just probably just like a little baby face. I remember them, and for whatever reason, it was like the time of year. It felt like it was like around late fall, and the air was crisp. And we shot in Yaletown in Vancouver, and we went for coffee afterwards, and it was just one of those records I always remember in my head of being like just one of my favorite memories of just recording the show, the camaraderie, the post record beverage after.
Yeah, anyway, of course.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love that. I mean, like, I think, when I had Scott on a couple months ago, he was saying before, it's like, I mean, work was our social life, like that's how we all saw each other. And now it is cons, for better or worse, which is fun, but it's a different, because I mean, like, not to go on this whole thing, but like, I'm bummed that Vancouver doesn't get as much stuff as it used to. Like, I miss hearing you guys on a regular basis. Because in that era, in those 2000s and even the late 90s, like, all of you guys were in everything I watched, and it got to a point where it's like, oh, Sam is this character in this one, Scott's in this one, and et cetera, and kind of, categorizing everybody, and it was fun, and, then afterwards, and now it's like Ninjago feels like it's the only kind of concurrent show happening up there right now. Yeah,
it pretty much is right now. Yeah. So, it's hard. I just have to look at it with like, that period of time is just like, I don't know. I have nothing but like fond memories, and it's like, for me, it's like this time that can never be, repeated. But I'm just so lucky that I got to participate in that whole time period with that group of people. It was just an amazing thing, and we were essentially learning how to become professional voice performers. We were amateur goofballs that like became professional voice actors. And it's like, I always have a struggle when people, how do you get into voice acting and this and that? Because the climate's changed. Like people actually like want to become voice performers. When I was a kid, I never dreamed of being a voice performer. I thought maybe I would get into animation. I like to draw and things like that. So I thought maybe I'd go that way. And I kind of fell into this career and had the good fortune of being able to like get in the studio training, because you get this part and it's like you're learning how to do this job. And we were there and doing our job at the same time. We were just such goofballs sometimes. If you go back and we learned to be professionals, I would say like Baby Looney Tunes for me was the show that said, okay, you got to learn how to be a real professional voice actor here. This is a serious job. You got 3 big roles, and you got to go in there and you got to do your job and do it well. And that was kind of like my starting point. Okay, this isn't just about having a good time. This is about delivering, so...
Well, I think what stands the test of time, and what I've noticed for a lot of the veterans that last, is the fact that like even if they start with having like, oh, this is my niche thing that I do in most shows, but then as they continue to carry on, they expand and they can become a utility player. Because I think about the fact that you had, I think, at least like 4 or 5 named guys in Mega Man, like just as an example. Right. Stormhawks, all of you guys were like 20 people like per show.
Yeah. And that came as a function of, it's hard to say, like, there was a handful of people that could really just change it up and do stuff, like, just go on the female side now. Tabitha St. Germain, so friggin' talented.
Love her. Kathleen
Barr, they were like, they had an arsenal, to use that term, or toolkit, and they just brought so much goodness, and the producers could really use that, when they needed to, like, get the show done, and they could only use like 5 or 6 actors to do it, as opposed to casting 14 people, right? That was a product also of financing, like, okay, this is what we got, and we're just lucky that we got a bunch of talented people in here that we can fill in this role, this role, this role, and this role, with this limited cast, and like people like Brian Drummond, who are just so talented.
The best.
It was great, and it was also just impressive to sit there and watch everybody do what they were doing, and you're like, oh wow,
I mean, the fact that you've been multiple times, like, you're one of the leading guys, and also one of, if not the main. I mean, like Pac-Man, I think about too. Like,
Pac-Man was
the lead villain, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, Pac-Man was fun to be the spiral kind of here, and Betrayus, that was kind of my first chew the scenery kind of villain that I ever did, I kind of and I still, like, when I get cameo requests, I always can hardly wait, just like, because I have my little Betrayus stuffy, and I'm like, I love when people request Betrayus, because I just get on there and berate and insult, and it's all about me and me. Oh, it's just like, I just go on. I have a great time doing those ones.
Oh my gosh,
it's so fun to do those type of characters.
And the president guy. Third guy. Yes, that's right. Well, this is the thing. President
Spheros and Betrayus are brothers.
Right.
So it was like, no, mother always loved you, bastard. No. Don't be such a. So anyway, that was that, and Chris Zimmerman directed us in that.
Oh, okay, nice.
And I also, when that happened, I was very excited because I loved Pac-Man growing up.
Oh, of course,
I played way too much of that. And I might have had a problem, but
are you still again? I know that when Brent was interviewing you, there was a funny moment of like, are you into Minecraft? Puts on the creeper hat. No, what's that? Never heard of it. Are you still big into games even now, or?
Honestly, no. I have an NES system sitting on top of my TV, and I put, and it was only because my buddy got me a little tablet game. He's like, "Oh, there's a bunch of games in there." I got so like into Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And then I was like playing this thing, and then it went kaputski. And then I was at this pawn shop, and I saw this NES system in the box. I'm like, I'm bringing that home with me.
Oh.
So now it's there, and but I'm not a huge gamer. I was I'm so old school, and I never really. There's some people from the Gen X generation who started off with the early systems and kind of progressed and got into like, personal, like the gaming and just kept moving and evolving with it. I was not. I got to like Sega Genesis, and then I was out.
Oh yeah. For me too.
I played a lot of Sega Genesis at my bro's place, a lot of Sonic, and then after that, I just kind of never kept up. And then it would be like my stepson before was like, trying to play, I don't know, at that point maybe it was like PS3 or whatever, and I was like, I'm done. I can't. I don't have I didn't get all those skills.
Side scrollers for forever, nothing else, please. Yeah. Well,
so
Sonic Underground must have been exciting then. If you were playing Sonic before that, then that's cool.
Oh yeah, actually no, Sonic Underground. Now
that was like 99, 2000.
Oh, I guess it was. Yeah. Who knows? I didn't even. Yeah, I played. That one was an interesting thing, and who knows? Maybe I'll understand one day. I was like, "You're gonna do the singing voice of Sonic," and I was like, "Isn't Jaleel gonna do it?" Like, no. I'm like,
yeah,
okay. So I don't ever know what happened there, but it doesn't matter. I'm just like, you're like, oh, an audition's come up. You bet.
Yeah.
So, and doing that was my first time singing in a show.
Oh, really?
Except for I did this one little cartoon. I think it was called Little Toot, which is not what you think that means, but it was. I think I was a little tugboat or whatever.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think I sang in that, but this is my first regular singing gig in a show, and it was very cool. I loved doing it because every song was different, like a different style, and that was a lot of fun. And now for me, I look at it and go, ooh, iconic IP. I'm just jumping on this. I'm just happy to be a part of the Sonic legacy. I don't, what I mean?
I was kind of hoping you might get to do something on Prime. I thought that would have been nice because drums.
I did audition for Prime. I just didn't get it.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes. Sometimes people beat you out for the role.
Yeah.
There it is.
God damn it.
Yeah, no, it was fun doing the singing, and I still have fun with it at the cons. I'll sing some songs to people, and they like it.
Hell yeah. Before I forget this little side story for a second, because this is funny. I was talking about this to Carl when I had him on a while back about Death Note. So I was reading the Death Note manga when I was in high school, and it was before the anime was even a thing. I think the first live action movie had just come out in Japan, maybe, so it was still early on. And before that, I had watched a little tiny bit of Hikaru no Go. Which was by the same creator as Death Note. So
I did not know that.
Yes, yeah, it was by the artist, and then the artist teamed up with a writer, and then they made Death Note together. So, but it was the same art style and everything, and both Vancouver. So when I was reading Death Note, I couldn't not hear Ocean Guys for all of the characters and everything.
Right. Yeah.
And Carl was like, "How close did you get?" And I'm like, "I guessed 3 people right." And it was so bizarre. And some of them were like, Kathy Westlock as Near, the little boy. Like, duh, of course.
Right.
Ted Cole as the, pretty boy, ponytail business guy. Duh. I guessed you correctly as Giovanni. Of all,
good for you.
Yeah, like just completely by chance. And then I watched when his first episode of the dub came out, and I'm like, oh, I'm good at this. And Cito as well. Cito was a different one, but that was like I remember my friends and I was like, "Is that Double D?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, right.
I want my jawbreaker.
But that show's kind of having a second wave of love because I know Brad and Brian and all them, they're doing.
I would say it's a huge wave of love.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly think that they the way I heard it is that, since you're with Celebworks, Neri got Brian Drummond to say, Death Note, I want to make this happen. It's like people love it. And he's like, I can get the band back together. And you can? He's like, sure. So, I think it's been a blessing for all of them to be getting out there again. With the Death Note thing, for sure.
Well, and even with you guys, too, it's funny, the Ed and Eddy thing, I mean, that's a great vehicle, because that's something, like, obviously everybody knows that, and that's an easy one. But, like, because even when I went up to you guys, I was like, yo, y'all don't have Mega Man prints. And, like, NT Warriors / Battle Network had kind of a resurgence a couple years ago. And, like, if people would walk up and say, wait, you're Numberman and Iceman, wait, you're bass, and you're, oh my god, like that's one of those things. That's what I hope when people come up and they see all your stuff and they realize how much you guys have done, and it's not just Ed and Eddy.
Well, it's pretty amazing to see that, because you just assume that people know what you've done. Like, I don't know, I've been around for so long, but there's so many people that are just surprised, and that's why I have my banner. I just say, okay, put as many, because some of them are like, what? Like, there's the obvious ones, and then there's I go, yeah, I don't know. And they're like, dude, this is like everything I watched when I was a kid, man. And I go,
I'm the freak that no, it's funny. I'm such a hipster. I remember when did you do My Little Pony? Friendship?
I did a couple of characters. I did Lim and Flam. They were
of course, yes. Duh. That's a great episode. Yeah, you and Scott, of course. Yeah, it's funny, when that show took off, I was like, I was a fan of Tabitha St. Germain before Friendship is Magic. Thank you. Okay. So. Yeah,
well, that's good. I mean, that for me, just on a personal level, that was the first time that I felt like the Vancouver crew got a lot of love for a show. And I was just so I was like, I want to get on that show so I can go to a con.
Yeah.
But besides that, I was so happy to see them getting their flowers, as they say.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, at that point, you know, we were all working and doing our thing, and you know, there were people who loved us. But that show got so much love.
Yeah.
And the Vancouver performers got so much love on that show. I was just so happy for them.
Yeah, honestly, and
I just was like, I'm
great.
so glad that you're being recognized for your work and your talents. So that was for me. I felt like that was a game changer in this in the sensibilities of what the talent from Vancouver was bringing to the table.
And who would have thought of all shows that would, because you guys had done other MLP shows before that. But
that's true. Yeah, we had. But that rendition that Lauren created, just people loved it. Yep. So that was cool. And then there's still, I mean, Andrea just went to China.
Oh my God.
Because apparently the show is now it's surging in China of all places because because they don't have anything translated into Mandarin. There's no Mandarin dubs. It's just the English dub.
Right.
But there's people that are gaga for My Little Pony now.
Wow.
You know, it's just hitting now, man.
Yeah.
So
you think about, I mean, even back in the day when there were these long gaps between when an anime would come out over here, you know, like 5-10 years later, I mean, some of these shows, and now they're like, you know, we have the simul dubbing shit where something's out immediately. You know, I actually just ran into, I think is it Dan Morrison from Ocean, like one of the head guys of the studio or something.
Ken, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Ken Morrison, yes. I ran into him at a thing out here in LA. He was networking, and I'm like, please, I'm literally part of your like state of competition, and I want more Canadian anime dubs again, man. Like, please.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I know we're at about an hour. I want to wrap things up in a little bit, but a couple last things. What is a day in the life for Sam Vincent these days? Like, what do you do for fun? What's a day in the life for you?
Honestly, my day consists of, I mean, I'll throw when I'm not out doing stuff, I'm here, or if I'm not recording like crazy right now. I've got Ninjago, and I do some stuff for I guess Carfax. But I get up in the morning, I put on the coffee maker. My wife and I, we sit down and we watch cartoons. I'm a lot of the stuff I'm getting more into because my wife is Guatemalan, grew up in Mexico, and I got into listening to dubs in Spanish, like the Mexican dub artists.
Yes.
It helps me learn my Spanish, under Spanish. And you know, the Dragon Ball the Spanish dubs is so big.
Oh my God, it's really good. Yeah.
It's really good, and it's like, so it was kind of a starting point, but then I started to get into other shows. Like right now we're watching Los Caballeros del Zodiaco, which is the Knights of the
Zodiac, of course.
Huge in Mexico.
Oh yeah.
The dub, they cut it and in America they had this thing of we've got to cut out this and this, but in Mexico it's just like blood, guts, this, that.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
They didn't mess with it. So that show is huge in Mexico. So and getting more familiar with the history of Mexican voice actors and the whole dubbing history down there.
Yeah.
Kind of like a side thing that I just kind of I absorb it a little bit. But so if we're watching some cartoons, then we'll hit the gym, and then I'm kind of a bit of a thrifting guy now. My wife and I we go thrifting. We look for toys, and then we do toy shows, and then local toy shows. Like I live on Vancouver Island now. Yeah. So we'll do local toy shows, and I set up tables and flip toys, and that's kind of my hobby as the fun stuff is.
Wow.
For me.
Okay.
So, and then, excuse me, you know, if we're going to Vancouver, we're visiting family, friends, and then, you know, doing more cons, and that's pretty much my thing, you know, kind of embracing what is here at the moment, you know, so yeah, it's just a fun little life that I'm, you know, very lucky to be participating in, and I'm really enjoying getting out and meeting fans and running into you and other people out there. It's kind of nice that there's these connections. I'm working with I think you met Daniel at one of the cons. He's my creative director for social media.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But we struck up a relationship earlier this year. He wanted to work with me, build content, and he comes with us to cons, and we're trying to do interactive like sketches with other.
I've been seeing those. Yes.
With other voice actors, and it's nice to meet some of the American actors that we just had a great weekend with David Kay.
Oh, of course.
Who used to be in Vancouver. I haven't seen him for a while, but it was fun to reconnect with him and just meet other people that I haven't met before, and have fun. It's been awesome.
This is only hitting me now, and it's so obvious, but if I get to do another one with you guys, I'm going to have to do something for my Reigen anime character, who is a scammer. And my God, there's probably jawbreakers to be traded for quarters at some point in there, so we'll have to do something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, that's the thing that's the fun part of it, is trying to find a connection between how we can mash this up and have worlds collide and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been fun meeting, some of the other Cartoon Network people like Courage, like Marty.
Oh, yeah, sweetheart. Oh,
yeah.
All these guys.
And just meeting, all these people. When we were up in Canada doing our thing, we never really got a chance to interact or meet people, Mm-hmm. We went into the studio to do our Cartoon Fridays, all by ourselves, but...
Back in those fun old days when, all the characters from each show would all interact with each other. That's all kind of gone. I miss so much of that stuff, man. Well, the very last thing before I let you go, thank you so much for coming on this morning in between a busy schedule. But this is something that especially now that the business has changed so much. One of the things that I was very grateful for when you were on that first episode of Voice Print with Trevor was talking about when the advice stuff, and you were very bluntly honest in a very, very productive way. And it was something that, again, right around that time when I was even thinking about getting into this, you were like, you really need to be honest with yourself. It's like American Idol, you compared it to, where it's like, people go up, they make idiots themselves, we all have a laugh, but a lot of these people really think that they can sing, that they really think they can do this. And you have to be honest with yourself. Do you really have what it takes to be a performer of any kind, right? And that was very helpful for me to be honest with myself before I got to a point where, yes, now I'm confident that I can do this. And it was only a couple years later I got my first job. And now, NostalgiaCon alone had like 120 guests, and a huge chunk of them are people my age, my generation. We all got into doing this after you guys did. And there's more people than ever doing this. And I would even say it's like both easier than and harder than ever to get into doing voiceover. But I imagine that now probably your advice maybe has changed or maybe has shifted. For someone who's maybe already doing this and maybe they want to, elevate themselves, they want to be doing more cartoons or, just something on a higher level than what they're doing. Like, what is something, I don't know if you ever taught it behind on the mic or anything like that, but what is a piece of advice or one or two pieces of advice you would give to somebody who is maybe in the midst of doing this and they want to improve themselves?
I think that there's always a tipping point. Now there's so many different things going on. I think it's great that I see extremely talented people who might not have any professional acting gigs under the belt, but they have all the talent and the capacity in the world. And I love the fact that they can get on Instagram or this and gain a loyal following of people and still find some way perhaps to generate some income on their talents. And I think that's a big thing, that's changed in the industry, where before I was like, I don't know. I all I know is I've got my agent. I go to this audition, I get the part or I don't get the part, and then the money comes. And I think now what everybody else is doing, and they're doing something, I don't know how to do that because I'm old school model. I don't even, I don't even think in those terms really. I mean, I'm starting to get more creative about what I can take in terms of what I generated with my career and how can I make that work for me now, right? But I think, I really think it's like any skill. I think that if there's no application or practice on a consistent basis, you can always get better and better and better. And I think that's the key, is just to keep practicing every day, whatever it is. There's always a new area of your voice that you can discover. I mean, that's how throughout my career is like, you have these little moments where you hit a new place and you go, oh man, I can do this character now, or consistently, you know, it's the consistency of doing this or that. You're never gonna get like, that's what I love about voice, is that there's always going to be a new voice to discover, a new accent to do, a new thing that you can discover a new thing in your voice that you bring out there and work on. And I think that you have to, it's just about application every day. You know, you're an artist, you understand that too, right? Like, you know, I don't draw nearly as much as I should if I want to get really good, because that's the only, talent gets you so far, but after that it's application of just working, and then finally one day pops, oh God, I can actually do hands all right now.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, you know, my faces don't look funny anymore. They actually look like, you know, or if they do look funny, I meant to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
My knees don't look inflated or something. Little things.
And that's part of it. That's part of it too, is just keep working on your thing. But you know, I think the industry model in terms of professional voice acting is still kind of like, need an agent gets you audition, and then you get the role in that traditional model. But like I say, content's being created differently now. So if you're like, well, I'm doing content, it might not necessarily be content coming from a studio or a network, but I have these high level people working in animation, and they're demanding high level voice work for their projects. You can be working on that stuff too, right? People aren't so like, well, that's not from Warner Brothers, so I don't want to look at it. I mean, people are admiring, you know, look at the work you're doing, your animation and your rap song on that. No, but I'm serious,
That's very
right?
kind
like,
of you. Thank you. Yeah.
You're creating content that people are enjoying, and they're not poo-pooing it because, oh, well, that didn't come officially from this or that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as long as there's quality there, people are admiring it, and there's a willingness also on some level to be a Patreon or support it. You know what I mean? As long as they're getting value from it. So I think that's what's changed, and I just think that, you know, you got to keep working, but the being honest with yourself still applies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, that's the thing. It's a hard thing to go like, okay, do you honestly think that you've got what it takes to do this professionally? And you know, and that's the thing. It's knowing that, or at least knowing I can get there. I'm going to have to fucking work my ass off and put in the hours to get there. But I do think I've got the essential skills to do it. And that's important, because so many people, it's kind of life. People want things very easily. And it, you know, there is good fortune in events that happen. There are things that happen, that fortuitous events that put you on your way. But at the same time, you gotta, you know, even every time I had an audition back in the day when I was younger, I didn't just roll into my audition and just throw it. And some people are good at that. Not me. I literally would stay in my car and practice for hours before an audition, before I went into that audition. Yes, just because I wanted to make sure that, because what happens is you get more nervous, or you get like all the other things that happen start to overpower you, and you have to have that kind of that thing in your mind that the practice saves you when the nerves go up or whatever. So I'm not saying that's the solution for everyone. So maybe some people are brilliant and they just go on there and off the cuff.
Trevor's always like, I'm too lazy. I just go.
Yeah. But that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I mean, I think that you don't want to get locked into a performance, because if they ask you to shift it up, you got to have improv and be able to go. But I always like, you got to put in your time, you know, and I used to do that. I did that back. I remember I was like, I don't really feel like I never went to like theater school, like university. Shakespeare text was always something that was a mystery to me. I remember I want to understand Shakespeare. I want to actually, not that it'll me come up in an audition, but I want to just get a little handle on the language. I remember going into my little studio and beat my head against the wall trying to understand this language and trying to get it out of my mouth and not feel like it was this or that. I would go like 4 a.m. I would roll up to my local Tim Hortons, crack open my Othello and sit there and drink and try and do Othello 4 a.m. I remember there's a guy who used to clean the parking lot. He was he looked at me and go, "It's not you again." Like he literally thought I was crazy. You know, he would look at me.
It's a weird homeless guy living out of your car.
But you will not hear me. And he'd be looking at me, and he'd be like, "You." I'm like, I'm just here practicing, bro.
I swear to God.
So,
oh my God.
You know,
Salmon isn't allowed at that Tim Hortons anymore.
Yeah, I was the crazy guy at the Tim Hortons reading Shakespeare at 4 a.m. So
oh my gosh.
But you know, those are kind of that. But that's me. Like that's what I have to do to kind of like feel like I got a handle on something.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly paid off because I mean, you are. If I didn't even have this as part of your intro, I usually am much more theatrical about my intros, but I mean, you are literally one of like the legends of Vancouver. Like, absolutely. Like the stuff you've done is amazing, and it's been highly influential, not just on myself, but so many people I know. And I am really glad that a lot more people are appreciating you and Matt and Tony and everybody, all my Vancouver folks that I adore so much, for real. Absolutely. Well, we're well over an hour. I'm gonna let you go, but this was wonderful. You are most often on Instagram these days, yeah?
Yeah, that's the only real one I have. Samuel Vincent Coot on Instagram. That's
beautiful. I'll have a link below. And I imagine this might go up probably before September's going to be up, but I imagine you've still got probably a bunch of cons before the year is over. So
yeah, we got some lined up. So we're going to be out there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, moving forward too.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everybody, thanks. I hope you all learned something. This was fantastic. And you know what? Just for the kids out there, and not for me or anything. You want to say? Why don't you say bye as Double D?
All right. Well, greetings and salutations. This is Double D Edward here. Thank you for listening to us for over an hour so attentively. I hope you were making notes, and if anything, put a sticky note on the fridge to remember to practice every day. All right. All right. That's all I have to say.
Take care, everybody.
All right.
Fare thee well.